So questions come up, why do we have a special theme that we like to use to develop our websites? We call it modular, maybe for obvious reasons. And it's one of those things that it becomes something we have to maintain. It becomes this extra liability that we have. So why bother? Over the years, and I've spent nearly 3 decades building websites now, I've developed some strong opinions and some strong inclinations to do things in particular ways. And it's sort of part of a programmer's journey. I think every programmer goes through this where at the beginning, they want to make everything themselves. At first it might be, I don't want to pay for whatever this feature is that I need, so I'll just code it myself and then I can avoid spending the money. Because of course, students are starving, right? But as time goes on, maybe it becomes a little bit of an ego thing or just it's a curiosity thing. I'd like to just figure out how to do this. So early on in my journey, I spent time building content management systems. A content management system is something like a Wix or a WordPress, but these didn't exist when I started. A lot of developers would either just write their websites directly in HTML code or CSS or something. And then as things moved along, people started to pivot toward, let's separate layout and design from data. And let's create something like a content management system to bridge those together so that something like a client of mine can go and type and change the content. If they notice a spelling error or they want to add a new service, they can go do that and they don't have to worry about design and layout. That's why we create content management systems. So over the years, I've built, I don't know, probably 7 of them. And leveling up a little bit every time I learn something either on the coding side or on the feature side that I want to change and something just reaches its limit and I grows out of it and I want to go make a new one. And I just did this over and over again. And CCS Interactive, when it was first founded, it was actually at the forefront by having one of these content management systems. They were one of the first to ever do this. Bear in mind, in the 90s, WordPress did not exist. There was no analogy to this. So it was revolutionary for CCS Interactive to have a way for clients who had no coding expertise, certainly, but maybe not even significant computer skill, to go in and manage their own websites and not have to pay a web developer an hourly charge every time they wanted to change something. So it's been this big value prop. And then me coming in as a programmer who just likes to build things myself, thinking, okay, I'll just continue this trend of building my own content management system. I've since learned the error of my ways, mostly because it's not that it isn't fun, it's just that now the onus is on me to maintain it. And of course, time is the most precious and scarce commodity. So we made the decision a few years ago to pivot over to WordPress. WordPress has dominated the market for a long time. Its market share isn't quite what it used to be, but it's still significant. And it has a lot of advantages over even like a product like Wix or Squarespace because it's portable. You can take it anywhere. It's open source. If you've worked with a web developer and you don't like them, they're not providing a good service or they've gone AWOL, you fire them, you take your website and you move it somewhere else, or you run it yourself and manage it yourself. It's a much more freeing type of organization. Whereas what like Wix or Squarespace, you're stuck. If you want to move it off of Wix, you're rebuilding your website. That's the way it goes. So we decided from a sustainability standpoint, we needed to move to WordPress. And we decided, or I should say, move to a larger ecosystem that's maintained by other people, that's maintained by a community, and the onus doesn't fall on me. And we chose WordPress because we have the freedom to go anywhere we want. Our clients have the freedom to go anywhere they want, including over to us from a delinquent web developer. So how does this all come together for why we have a special theme? I'm still a very opinionated person. So I have very particular ways I like to do things, and part of the reason I waited to move to WordPress for so long is because I have a lot of grievances with it. There are some wonderful things and wonderful features, and there are some major compromises that you make in order to have those wonderful features. So I created my modular theme to start to fix the things I don't like. And also because one of the downsides to WordPress is that you have all these plugins. That's an advantage, but it's also a bit of a liability because plugins can perform poorly. They could stop being maintained at any given moment. They might interfere with other kinds of things. They might create a lot of bloat, which is frankly my biggest grievance with WordPress, is how bloated it can get, how much space it takes up on my disk, how much computing power it requires to serve a page, how much I have to rely on caching and different kinds of things. Whereas the content management systems I built were just like lightning fast. So I'm trying to correct some of these problems. One of the biggest ones I had is the way WordPress handles images. And I think a lot of people share my frustration. I won't go into the details of exactly what all the problems are. But in addition to the problems, I also have learned over the years, especially with respect to a website performing well for SEO, or for accessibility or performing well on mobile and loading fast, that we want to be able to support the latest and greatest image types. So we've done a series before on some different image formats. The common ones are like GIF and PNG and JPEG, but those are old school these days. And there are newer ones like WebP, which is frankly aging a bit, and now there's AVIF, and I'm sure there will be newer ones that are balancing quality of image with size. And so I wanted to make sure that our websites support these newer versions, and that's not something that WordPress does out of the box. There are some plugins that help with it. I don't love that experience. There are some downsides to them, and so I knew I wanted to integrate it in a better way and have something that would be able to build the way we do images directly in WordPress. And we wouldn't have to think about that. We wouldn't have to convert all those images ourselves. We wouldn't have to decide whether or not the server even could support that. It's all baked into this theme. And then beyond that, frankly, a lot of time when we're building a website from a design prototype is spent with the images, cropping them out the right way. And it's not just that we have to crop them for one, we have to crop them for all of these different screen sizes that they might go to, and an image that might have been landscape and desktop mode might be portrait over here when we're in mobile. And it's just a lot of work for us to go in and manually edit all of these images. So I wanted this theme to do that for us, just like the content management systems that I have built several generations before did. So I ported over some of the things that I really liked about the content management systems I built, and have since stopped having to deal with maintaining all of the boilerplate and foundational kind of stuff that WordPress does really well and other content management systems do really well. So I'm really excited about the way we handle images. I think you'll find, for one thing, it's easier to do in the first place. There's so much less work that's involved in uploading them. And then on top of that, they handle whether or not devices are, for example, double resolution. So we're filming this on an iPhone right now. iPhone is what we call Retina, which means that for every pixel, there's actually really 4. It's 2 by 2, so it's double the resolution. So if you want an image to look really good on a mobile device or on a Retina display, or any sort of 4K type display potentially, then you're going to want to serve an image that's twice as big, really 4 times as big. And so this system handles that, and this system is able to detect whether or not there's a Retina display. It's able to detect whether or not there's a support for one of these newer image formats, and takes care of all that for you, and figures out the cropping for you too. So you can just focus on a focal point in an image, and it figures out at the different little breakpoints how it's going to crop that image differently and make it look crisp and clean in every context with minimal effort from our team.